What is going on, everybody? Anon here, and I am a little under the weather because my kids are sick and they got me sick. So if I'm sniffling, it's just par for the course. So anyway, I want to have a conversation about handicapping the pull rates on Spider-Man and using Final Fantasy as a metric to try to project what are the print runs for Spider-Man. And we have a very mathematical way that I think is pretty tight to do so. But I get to thinking, what if, and I'm trying to give WOTC the benefit of the doubt here, so I'm sure I'll get a lot of thumbs down for this. But for those of you who don't know, from every set after Duskborn, so I guess Foundations through Final Fantasy, the collector boxes were printed in Japan. Edge of Eternities was rushed to move the printing to the US due to all the tariff shit show back and forth. And then Spider-Man was also printed in the US, at least all of the cases that we have. So I don't know if it's a coincidence that coincides with all of a sudden there are no serialized cards or not, but it does appear that the print runs have stayed about the same, but there's no serialization on the card. And the reason I went through this was because I wanted to see what the implied print runs look like. And, you know, kind of my hypothesis here, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to be able to prove this, is what if the print facility that they had to move to in the US just doesn't have the capabilities to print serialized cards? And, you know, not to bury the lead here, but assuming that they're printing the Soulstone and Sothera about the same frequency as the Black Chocobo in Final Fantasy, and the entire world expects a number on the card, why would you not put one on if you're going to print the same rarity? Unless you simply can't, and you don't have the ability to do it. So I could be totally off base, but I started looking at this from the other angle. So before I get into the math, this is the Golden Chocobo tracker. This is like the base information of what we're going to use, because we're going to assume 55.84%, which is the number found, are the number of packs that have been ripped in Final Fantasy, which is probably damn close to what reality is. Now, there could be someone here that haven't been found or haven't been reported, but I'm not sure that's the case as we get here. Now, what's interesting is we get to the bottom here. They end on number 69. There have been none found from 70 through 77. So either these guys are just trolling us and ended on 69, which would be hilarious. I don't know where these are. So 70 through 77 could theoretically be in a new edition, could be in the Chocobo bundles somewhere, which is the holiday version that we don't have a whole lot of information on, but it looks like it's play boxes and scene box. So they could be there, or they could just be buried somewhere in gift bundles, or theoretically they could be somewhere in collector commanders and nobody knows about it because nobody's opened any of them. But let's go to the numbers. And this is where it gets super fascinating. So yeah, this is a little advanced mathematically and conceptually. So feel free to replay it a couple times. I'll try to be as clear as possible. And I know I'm going to jump around a little bit. So 55.8% of the serialized chocobos have been open, which means 55.8% of all of the rest of the colored chocobos, the neon ink, by definition, have to be open as well. So what I did was I took all of the number graded by grading company. Now, I didn't adjust for for reopens or cracks and regrades. It doesn't really matter because theoretically, if it happens, they're all happening equally. So I took the total graded and really used the serialized card as the control. So 29 of 43 of the cards have been graded. So that gives me a 67.44% grade rate. So now what I can do is I can take this 180, I can divide it by 67.44 to back into the total number that should have been found, not graded. And then I can divide it again by 55.8% to back solve for how many are sitting in sealed product out there, assuming it is the same number or the same ratios as what we're seeing with the serialized chocobo. And what that does, believe it or not, it gets us to an implied total population of the black chocobo of 478 cards. So I think we all have a high degree of certainty that there's about 500 of these. No different than what we saw with the Edgar Markov serialized, with the Aether Spark serialized, and with the Mox Amber serialized. So the Black Chocobo is effectively the serialized cards from the earlier sets in 2025. Now, here's where it gets a little weird, and obviously you have the serialized at 77. Here's where it gets a little weird. Now, you have 700 implied for yellow, then 882, 852, and 876. So that almost tells me that the lower the numbers go, because it's 551 A, B, C, and D, the more cards they are. So this is a little bit of an anomaly. But the other thing to keep in mind is if this total number is actually 69 instead of 77, because the total population of these aren't out, or the 7 or the 8 chocobos that have not been found that are sequential are somewhere where the neon ink chocobos can't be found. Now that changes the calculus here. So that would imply that there's only 435 black chocobos, 642, 750, 774, and then 800 blues. So let's put a pin in that for now. We'll just adjust things to where we're at. So what this tells us is in Spider-Man, I am assuming, again, and we're going to see the numbers. Sothera, there have been like 30-some cards, 35 or so cards that are out there. I didn't check to see how many are graded. I probably should have. But quite honestly, I don't care that much because this is about why the hell didn't they put a serialized number on the Soul Stone? But either way, if we assume the Soul Stone, just say there's 500 of them, right? 477, whatever. The 815 is the average of the rest of these chocobos. So now there is potentially 6,200 chase cards in these sealed collector boxes, and each one of these is going to be multiple thousands of dollars. So when we look at the actual Spider-Man collector boxes tanking, these cards are going to hold value in the boxes because people don't understand them. And look, I was the first person to say these guys are absolute idiots because they're printing these, not including the serialized card so they can print more. But what if they're not? So with the chocobos, they were clearly disciplined with making sure that they were printed and they were extremely rare. Right. So with the Soul Stone, if there are 500 Soul Stones, it's going to be a $10,000 card. If there's a $10,000 card chasing those boxes are going to be $800 to $1,000 day one. Presuming that they drop to somewhere in the 500s on Thursday or Friday, whenever it opens, in my view, these things are screaming buys. But I don't think the world understands the print runs of these. And that's one area where I think Wizards of the Coast needs to come out and say, yeah, the reason we don't have serial numbers in the cards, it's not that we didn't intend to put them there. It's the fact that we just couldn't put them there. And I think that would put the entire market at ease. Now, look, they may want to shit all over the market right now, which would be idiotic, but you never know. The prices are expensive. I mean, even with the market cratering around Spider-Man collector boxes, it is still over MSRP. So, as Wizards and Hasbro has done in the past, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I tend to think that if you're going to print the same number of cards, and again, as we get grading populations of these cards out, no different than what we're going to see with Sothera, and I'll take a look at that a little bit later tonight. I think what we're going to find is these populations are about what the print runs are. And now we're not going to be able to determine what the total population is because we don't have the serialized card, which is shitty. But either way, we can kind of back into what these are. Now, if there's 500 soul stones and there's 500 black chocobos, the soul stones are going to be about twice as easy to pull because there's about half the number of packs. Just, again, best guess, because there is far less Spider-Man than there is Final Fantasy. I mean, from my main distributor, I got 40% of the collector boxes that I got from Final Fantasy, and we're not a small account. But I want to put this out there, and if any of you guys have any better information as to where they're printed. I know everybody says North Carolina, but Cardamonde does not have a facility in North Carolina. They're Texas, Kentucky, and Massachusetts. Be interesting in emailing me, post something in the comments, because I really want to get to the bottom of this, because this market blip here could very well not be due to incompetence. It could be due to just the technical limitations of where they're printing the cards in the US. Now, granted, they printed serialized cards in the US before. MH3, Lord of the Rings Holiday, just to name a few. I know there's a couple others. But again, are they printing in the same facility, or are they printing in a different facility? I don't know enough about that part of it, and I would love for any of you guys to educate me on it. But I thought this was interesting as we look at the total implied population of Final Fantasy, and as well as the total potential population of Spider-Man, and just trying to bridge the gap of, if you're going to print the same rarity, why the fuck not put the number on that everybody expects? And the thing I keep getting back to is you're either stupid or you just can't do it. And you've just been piss poor at communicating that you can't do it. So now the market is left to have their imagination run wild, knowing that you guys have done dumb things in the past and assuming you're just doing dumb things today. So anyway, hopefully this was interesting. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and we will talk tomorrow.